Happy Worm Day, everybody. Today's Friday, March 1st. We're going to start. This video is going to be about working through some more really wet pins and castings. And we've been working on this for the last couple of weeks trying to get some of this stuff out of these bins. And we're just going to continue doing that, and then after that I'm going to make another video about worm feeding. This is my ENC bin. It feels a little better on the top. I'm sure it'll be muddy when we get down to it. So, away we go. I had to really clean my screen off. Last time I used it, it was quite built up. There's a nice juvenile ENC. I don't expect to get much out of the bin. It's I'm just trying to get some out as I go. It's very, very wet, and I'm just trying to make a little room, I guess. The more room we can make now, while I'm playing with all this stuff, the better off I think we're going to be. Baby worms, young worms, younger than juvenile, toddler worms. New term, toddler worms. A lot of worms in this ENC bin. They're doing real well. For population wise, I only started with ENCs in October and March now, I guess. There's a worm in that ball. Sorry. Probably about as much as we're going to get out of that. Getting down to pretty wet. I'm going to mix them up. Oh yeah, she's muddy down here. Really, really, really muddy down here. We've been doing a lot of mixing in this, and it is improving, but it's so wet. And I'm not sure if you can see it through the camera, but this stuff here is pretty much to the point where it should be getting sifted. A lot of cocoons right there. Big cocoons. ENCs have big cocoons. It's pretty cool. But anyway, this end here is quite a lot ready. Okay, you can see how wet and sticky it is on my hands. It's improved. It's not as muddy as it was, but it's still muddy. Might as well make a feeding and sifting and dealing with the wet castings. Alright, we're going to put a frozen banana back here. Cover it up. And we're going to call that bin good. Just going to set one piece of plastic on it. So just to avoid cross-contamination, we're going to check and feed my breeder bin. Oh yeah. Up on top of the paper, between the paper and the plastic, enjoying themselves in a nice moist spot. Yep, they're enjoying themselves. And this paper did pull out a lot of moisture. Let's see what we got in here. We got some celery. And a grape. Piece of apple. We're not going to overfeed these worms because there's lots of stuff in the bedding for the worms to do their thing. Excuse me, something caught in my throat. We're just gonna quickly give them a feed and let them go. All right. So let's get back to checking out some of these wet bins. This is my original brooder bin, and I did get quite a bit of material out of here the last time. I'm just gonna snuggle the little bit of paper that I can off to the back. And we're gonna grab the top where it's drier. Take off a little bit more if you can. And I'm not going to worry about ENC and red wiggler cocoons mixing at this time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep those worm castings separate, and when I sift worms out of them when they've hatched, I will put those worms in a separate bin by themselves. If they're mixed, and it's okay, because what's going to happen is I'll use that bucket, that tray, out in my outdoor worm bins, so the mixture will just be a good population of mixed worms, and it won't hurt a thing. So yeah, we're getting a little bit off of here. That's okay. Good population of worms in here. And I can see a good population of castings in here. And a good population of cocoons in here. Really happy with the way this bin has come on. This was my first brooder bin in the breeder bin setup, and it's done very well. So with me taking that week off, kind of break off through YouTube and not making any videos, my activity has really dropped. And I guess I'm learning about how that works with YouTube, so maybe a person shouldn't take breaks, but... Okay, so I'm just going to give this a good mix, but I have taken some out of the inn. Actually, a pretty good amount between those two bins, because I didn't get very much out of the ENCs. There's a spent cocoon, hollow, caved in. The worms that were in it are out. Yeah, this is starting to feel better. Maybe in another week or so we'll have it the way I like it for sifting, and I can get some, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a really good population of worms in here. And like, worm castings hold moisture. So my daughter she subscribes to my channel. She's like, Dad, why are the worms so wet? And it's like, well, the more castings you have, the more efficient it is at holding the moisture, and the harder it is to get them dried down. And you really have to keep working it in and work and aerating it up and putting it in an environment where it will dry. That's a really big thing right there. You've got to create that environment for it to dry. So you take the plastic off, most of it, and you give it more space. You work it up, turn it up. These are still your bananas. They're brat, by the way, from when we moved you. So we're just going to give that bin a banana, call it good. Alright. I got my helper Gur with me today. He's having a nap over there on the end of the bed. He's the king of chillaxation. He really is getting to be an old boy. I think he's 12 years old, maybe 13. I think he's 12. Okay. This is the guys' babies and cocoons that I skimmed out of the guys over time. And this bin is very active also. So we're going to take as much out of this as we can. And you can see they've turned up what they're going to turn up. The top around the edge where, you know, it got air is nice and dry, but where the plastic was, and it wasn't on there tight. You've seen it come off. It was just sitting there. The middle is pretty wet. We're just going to take as much as we can, and then we're going to feel back, and I'll be back in a few days to do it again, because it takes time and effort to do this. And you have to monitor it, because if you get it too dry, you're going to do damage. A long ways from too dry. thing is, this stuff's still real wet, so it will ball up on you real bad. See? But there's worms in that ball. Little worms. So they are going through it. And they are going after the paper. It's just mud balls. Last couple times we were able to get pretty good amount of siftings out of my big wedge bin, the guy's bin. Yeah, this is getting too wet in here. We are gonna just mix it up. And see, look at that. It's just mud. And the worms don't care that it's mud. They love it. But you can't sift it. There's thousands of worms in this bin. It literally is like playing mud pies. So, like I said, we take out what we can, and we deal with the rest. We mix it up, stir it up, hopefully get it in the drying down position. It's gonna try to dry down. Well, it's muddy. It's muddy. So I've been struggling with this now for a couple of weeks, and it looks like it's getting better, but it's definitely muddy. Give me a banana back here. There we go. What have we got going here? I think this is the Guys, Babies, and Cocoons from January. Now these guys are just getting set up and going, so let's just dig into them, see what's happening. Obviously there's getting to be some worms in here because look at the worm castings are at the top. I'm on the wrong side. Let's just have a look. There's a worm. There's a worm. There's a worm. There's a worm. Give it time. The moisture's good in here. Should be good for hatching. I'm seeing worms. Yep. Nice. So here comes another active bin in the future, right? There's worms back here. This, I must have done a feeding zone back here last time. And there's some worms back here. Lots of coffee in here and nice bedding. We give them a banana. No, yeah, we're gonna give them. We give them a banana. I'm going to open it up just a little bit so that they can get into it. But that banana may take a while to disappear because there's not the hugest population in this bin, but there's a good population, so we'll start giving them a little more feed. And I'm okay with letting them be wet, but they're not too wet. They're actually just right. Let's put this over the banana, just to tell us where we put it. All right. Those three are done. All right. Now, of course, Brooder Bin. December 22nd. One more bin under the bed. This one's an easy one to forget. That was those fat guys. They don't do much. But there was getting to be worms in there. Okay. Just set this here. Set this here. See what we got going on. So the last time when I added to this bin, there's some small worms. Yep. And there's a juvenile, actually. It's developing a clitellum already, so there is some bigger worms in here. It is getting more active, and this is a fairly new Brooder Bin. So, no smell, everything's doing good. What we're going to do here, give them a banana, open it up so that they can get started on it. And it might last them a while, but that's okay. It's alright. Paper over there. And that guy's done. There's our breeder bin. So check on them, see how they're doing. So I like to keep my population in my breeder bin close together, and they are close together. See if I can get some smaller food here. Some rice and an apple core. I'm not going to put any a cucumber. That's lots of food for my breeder bin. There's only a couple hundred worms in here. Just gonna cover that up. Maybe give them a handful of bedding. So this bedding's been pre-started. I'm just going to give them a little more to cover up their food. See if I can put it on there. Excuse me. Okay, so these guys are doing well. Just fine. You want to keep your breeders wet because the wetter they are, the better they do. So this is this fat guy's bin. And on here, I'm not seeing any baby worms up here in this moisture on the plastic. Alright, that for sure is a red wiggler. Full coat clitellum. Yeah, I really think, there's a big one. They're just different. They're just different. So, now that I've got some red wigglers showing up in here, and they are breeding, there's one of my big ones. There's another big one. I believe that's a juvenile from the big ones. But that is a red wiggler. So if somebody can tell me what they think these are they like a bigger version of African nightcrawler or what? This bedding's getting to feel dry. But I am going to feed these guys this time. And they got some coffee coming in with the new bedding, so that will not harm them at all. And I got some water. This is just stuff that's gone through my Brita. I put it by my bed to use. Throw a couple of Kleenexes in there. And yeah, Kleenexes is like, worms will go through it. Don't. People overthink this stuff way too much. What do we got here? It's just mud. I am seeing more red wigglers in here. Like, that's a red wiggler. So, I'm happy with that. Wonderful. Maybe it'll go out in my windrows and add to the mix. There'll be some red wigglers. There'll be some of them fat guys. I don't need a bin of fat ones in here because they're just very slow to produce and very I don't know how to explain it. It's not worth my effort. Throw that in there, throw that in there. It's not worth your effort when you don't see any production out of them. Cucumber, rice. Give them some rice. Put that back in there, put that back in there, put that back in there. Grape. Give them a little more bedding on top to cover the food. And there's getting to be more worms in here, so I'm not real worried about. You know, give them a little more bedding. It's okay. Alright, this is done. This is done. The funny part about this bin is we've got fungus growing. And I'm sure, I know for a fact that fungus is not a bad thing to have in a worm bin. Alright, let's bring the guys up. And let's see if we're still recording. Yep, we are. I gotta keep checking my camera once in a while because I did clean it up before I brought it to do this stuff. Right. Here. Oh, we got worms under the plastic. Between the plastic and the paper. They really like getting into that moisture and spending time there. And there's lots of little ones on the plastic. So you can see that. Take the paper off back here. Oh, they got a worm party going back here. Probably a dozen worms there. All balled up, having their movie night, I guess. That's what it's like to get lucky when you're a worm, I guess. You get together with your friends, have a little food, have a little fun. And you're not going to get all, there's a lot of babies on this piece. There's 3 babies right there that I can see. 4. So this bin is the guy's bin. This is my oldest bin. And it's a very active bin. And it has been reacting the best to me trying to dry it down. I think I'm just going to fold that up and set it in there. Set it over there and bring them back. They're busy on the paper. That's okay. I like paper. We've really had good success getting a lot out of here, and I know I can get more. And it has a total different feel. I guess I didn't put that in that bin, did I? Alrighty. So I'm just gonna start. Skim some off so that they start heading down. When you disturb them, they get a little more agitated and want to go down, but red wigglers are pretty chilled. A huge amount of worms in here. And as I get less castings in here and the area gets pulled down and really starts showing how many worms are actually probably in here. Still think it'd be neat to do a complete separation and weigh them out. Started with a 1/4 pound of worms, and every worm bin I have that's a red wiggler in my operation has come into existence in one form or another out of this bin. My breeder bin came out of here. I hand-picked worms that I believed and seemed to be red wigglers only. When I set my breeder bin up, so I used that. My grandson's worm bin, we set him up with worms at the time, and he's got a big population, he tells me. And my cousin's daughter has a worm bin that we started here after Christmas in January, and we started her with a good batch of worms. Like, I think it was 4 or 5 heaping handfuls of, and they were just full. Took a lot of the feeds on, so they were just really full handfuls of worms. So we've started multiple bins out of this bin, and there's still a huge population. They're doing just fine. I've said it before that I think most of my blue worms have gone away. for one. The yellowtails and whatnot seem to be a lot more prevalent. I'm not saying there's not still some blue worms in here. I'll never say that. There seems to be a lot less of them. Lots of cocoons. Lots of young worms. So we're just going to continue on, and we're going to take what we can out of here and mix it up. Give them a feeding at the back end. We're in here quite a bit the next couple of weeks to try to get these wet castings worked through. And I personally think it's a little more labor intensive, but I think it's the only way to do it in my situation. I'm sure a bigger operation would probably take the paper off, put a fan above it, and like mechanically dry them down. I'm not gonna do that. Getting down to where it's too wet. I think we're going to call that very wet. But the nice part is we are making headway. Well, maybe I could take some off of this end a little bit. This thing's so mixed up now. It's no longer a wedge at the moment because I've been turning it so much to get it to dry that it's a great big mixed up bin. Yeah, got some more on. Guess we can put this stuff this end. Well, we just keep doing this until we get to where we want to be and figure it out. The screen's getting quite built up. I had to take a jackknife and just scrape off all the dry stuff that dried on there like concrete, and it was like concrete. It was very hard. And yeah. And I'll have to do that again next time because it's building up. They're a big worm. Nice red worm. When it's too wet like this, don't overload your sifter. You'll do way better service and use of your time by just putting less in. it is the perfect example of less is more at the time because it's so wet. But this stuff's in a lot better shape than those previous 3 bins that we removed castings from. A lot of worms in here. There's not a doubt in my mind that there's worms going into the castings. It's okay. Not even going to do a double sift to get worms out. We're just trying to deal with castings, and we're going to just deal with castings for a while. It's kind of my priority. I don't need to start more worm bins right now, and when I do, it'll work out fine. I don't need to start more worm bins just to create more work. They're in bins. They're doing fine. I don't need to. I don't see a problem with the population in them yet. Where they've stagnated, I'm still seeing lots and lots and lots of baby worms. So I'm not going to worry about that. Got a fair amount out of this end. Maybe I was working on the wrong end to start with. Kind of seems like it. And when it's wet like this, don't try to get out every casting either. It's not going to happen. I think we've come to the point where we're just going to turn them all up. There's some worms. A lot of worms in here. Gonna aerate it up, move them around. Hope you're seeing this, or hope you're enjoying the. There's a worm ball around some food. There's a lot of worms in there. Food down. Worms will find it. We're going to give them some food. Here we are. So we're in March. So we started this worm bin in March last year. I can't honestly remember if it was mid-March or the end of March. I think it was mid-March. With 250 worms. There's 200 and, well, there's not 250 worms there, but there's 50. Maybe more. A lot of little guys in there. So that gives you an idea of probably how many worms are in here. It's just been so much fun to watch this come up and be what it is. So I'm going to leave it well spread out, and I'm going to get them some food. Rice. More rice. Onion. More onion. Apple core. And 2 bananas. We're not going to bed them because I want to get more out. Okay, so let's get these guys back in their spot. This paper is just full of worms, and they are loving it. There we go. That bird's outside my window. Maybe they want to have some worms, but I ain't gonna give them any. I'll put the food at this end. So this is where we're going to put our plastic bags, and we're just going to use that as our marker. See what worms do? They get together. And that's what they do. Okay, I'm not going to close this lid tight. When I get it down to the ground, I'm going to slide it open a little bit. And that, there is the feeding part. So this thing's really damp. I've got a new worm castings container. See that, and the lid stays open nicer. So I've drilled my holes around the corners except for all for one. That way if I want to wash it out, I can wash it out. And we're just going to mix this stuff up. It's really wet, but that's okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to put this stuff that we took out previously. We're going to work it through with that. Get the wheel out of the road so you can see what I'm doing. See, it's very wet. This stuff's all quite wet, and that's okay. Not gonna matter. We are gonna empty this blue bucket. And there is a worm trap down there. There's a worm trap. I don't see any yet. I'm just gonna set it on the screen for now. I'm not going to empty the worm trap. I only set it up about a little over a week ago. Yeah, that's what happens when you kind of get in a hurry. But I've got a broom. I'm going to get it before I crush that in the mud. This stuff's wet. There's a worm. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm sure there's a lot more in there yet. Yeah, there's more worms. Because this pail was getting too full, or it is full, so this pail's bigger. And we're just gonna start, and we're gonna try to mix it up. Not just gonna take it out as it came out. We're gonna get down to the bottom and mix it around. So I've now probably got enough worm castings out of my worms to start my projects in spring for worm tea and stuff to cover probably 350 to 400 acres. And I'm not done yet. We've still got more worm castings to take out. And there'll be more getting created along the way. Because I'll tell you, the Guy's Bin is so active that they tend to need, when I was doing it previously, before they got real wet, they tend to need to be sifted about every month to 6 weeks at the end where the castings is mature. So, man, I'm good at making a mess, but that's okay. I put a catch sheet down. It is what it is. I don't get in too much trouble for it. As you can see, this brand new bin is getting full. It might not even all fit in it. Because you don't want to bring it up past the holes. That you don't want to do. But we're just going to put as much in as we can, and then we'll probably put the rest back in that blue bin. It's the reason I'm not going to mix it with my other ones is they're at a different level of maturity. And I just don't want to have that. Right, that's much we're putting in. And this other bins are pretty full too. But a full bin will do probably 3. Zoom out. Go back up. Kind of forgot that I had zoomed you in. That's okay. You probably didn't need to see me anyway. I hope you've seen something. Yeah, we'll put the rest of this in here. Because the next time we put it, we're going to have to put it in here. This bin right here, this bucket right here, would probably do 2 totes full of when it's full. Like not when I'm putting into it right now, but when it fills back up. This tote will probably be able to make 250 gallon bulk totes of tea for what's in them, right? So then you take that tea and you mix it 10 to 1. Put it. I'm gonna set up my sprayer to go and do all this. And I'm going to apply that 10 to 1 mixture. So that'll make 2,500 gallons of 10 to 1 mixture, right? Actually, 2,750 if you do the math right. Because you got the 250. Then you've got the 10 to 1, so you put 2,500 with it, so you get 2,750 of actual spraying out product. That'll fill my sprayer 2 3/4 times because I have a 1,000 gallon sprayer. Okay, on the sprayer end of it, it holds 1,000 gallons. I want to put out about 20 to 30 gallons, 25 to 30 gallons of water per acre, of product per acre. So if I can get it achieving 25, gallons into 1,000 gallons. Every 100 gallons is 4 acres. So there you have it. That will do approximately 40 acres at 25 gallons. Okay, let's take that number and go by sprayers. That's 2.75 sprayers per tote. So that's a little over 100 acres per tote that I can cover. That's, I forgot my worm trap. I'll just put it in the broom. Oops, dropped the broom. Put this in the blue one, it'll be fine. We'll add some more to it. So, okay, I should have enough here to do 2 totes. 2.5 totes per kitty litter bucket. So I've got enough here to do, here's my kitty litter buckets right now. Got 3 of them. So I can do 2.5 per full kitty litter bucket, and they'll all be full plus more in the spring. And So that's 7.5 tilts. And as I've already said, the way I mix it down, I can do about a little over 100 acres per tote once it's all mixed down. Numbers are telling me I've got enough to do 700 acres once, or 300 acres twice, 350 acres twice. Right now, as if I don't get any more worm castings, that's what I've got. I'm going to get more worm castings because I've still got worms and they're still working and I'm still feeding them, and we're working our way through. I'm probably going to get the rest of that blue pail filled out of just the guys alone in the next few weeks. The guys are very productive. So that's the plan with my worm casting. I hope that gives you somewhat of an explanation. What the worm castings do when you put it on the land is reintroduce the bacteria and the biology and the fungus and the fungi. All of that bacteria needs to be reintroduced to our ground because our ground is completely depleted of such things because it is it's been cultivated for I don't know how many years. You know, this country was mostly settled after 1905, and 2024, so it's been seeing the plow and chemical. It's been seeing the plow for 115 years, at least, maybe 120. And it's been seeing chemical since after World War II. So that has really taken our biology down. Even the most damaging thing is the plow. The next most damaging thing is chemical. And our grandfathers didn't know any better, so that's what they did. And now we've got to fix it. And now with the government saying they want us to use less fertilizer and decrease the amount of nitrogen and chemical fertilizers that we put out on the land, I think this is the direction us farmers are going to have to take. Otherwise, we're not going to get the production to feed people. We're already to the point where our production's down because of lack of fertilizer last year. And I think it's probably a better thing to try to build this than it is to concentrate on creating more chemical fertilizers out of fossil fuels. My take on things, but I know some people don't agree with me, and you don't have to. Okay, so March 1st, this is checking the worms, feeding the worms, working with wet castings, and general talk along the way. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have a great day.